6:02. The first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing we have is approval of minutes, May 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Gaffney. Anyone have any questions on it?
Good.
All right, everything looks good, so we have to do a roll call vote. Commissioner Brooks is virtual, so let's go down the line. Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaffney?
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton? Aye. 5-0-0. Minutes approved.
There's a copy to sign.
Does Commissioner Brooks have to sign it?
I'll figure that out if he has to sign it when he comes back.
Okay.
We can work that out.
Public participation, we got a full house here. So with that being said,
Thank you.
Director Regan, yeah, how am I doing? Director Egan, your report, please.
Thank you. Just a couple quick items. After our last meeting, I had talked about potentially a EV parking spot up at Simons Park. I did walk the parking lot in the park with representatives from the DPW and Eversource, and the best spot to bring a dedicated line in for a spot would be off of Bedford Street. So it's, the pole is beyond home plate of the upper Little League field. So they would bring the line up along that walkway or come up through there and then to the parking lot, kind of where the path goes down to the baseball field. But anyways, they're gonna go back, they will determine, the feasibility of that for the project, and we'll come back to the town with a plan. So, they would like to, I think, eventually have multiple spots if they can, but, they're gonna start with one or two spots, and it'll be dedicated electric vehicle parking, and, again, the cost will be picked up through Eversource.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question. Brendan, who pays for the electricity when they're charging their vehicles? Is it, you put a charge card in these things, or how does that work?
I believe they do. That I don't have an electric vehicle. I haven't experienced it, but when you go to a public spot like that, you have to pay yourself.
So we're not going to be funding?
We won't. No,
free
and the
charging?
cost to install everything is on Eversource. It's through a grant program. So
That's all I have, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just to comment in the planning board, a lot of discussion on EV parking spots as folks come before us to put those in. And at the last meeting, we talked about handicap accessible EV parking spots. So typically, if you have like a dozen or so, there would be some that designate EV. I know this is just the first one, but just kind of think of that for the future.
Good point.
So that did come up, and I believe if it's two spots, one of them will be an accessible spot.
So how they deal with that is that what we said at the planning board was that you'd make it look as close to a handicap spot as you could, because there's not going to be a dedicated handicap spot, but just for accessible. So you'd put the wheelchair, you paint it blue, but it would not say, handicap designated, it would just be handicap accessible.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so
That
if
makes
there's
sense.
two cars, if there's one car coming in, they're not gonna take that spot, they'll take the other one, right?
Okay.
Hopefully first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Quick question. Now, eventually we're gonna be doing the park over, the playground. The plans to put any on that side?
There could be down the road once it comes up, but the other transformer that they could go off of is down by the current street hockey future pickleball courts. So it's a much longer run,
Right.
going through a lot more to get up to the top.
Okay.
So it would probably be easier to come from where they are now, create a spot where I just mentioned, and then continue and come across. But eventually, maybe there could be a couple spots there, or they could come another direction. There's another transformer, I think, down by the corner. I don't know if they would ever come off of, down by the corner of Cambridge and Bedford. So,
Excellent. Any other questions on that?
No.
Okay, Brendan.
okay, sticking at Simons Park, the basketball courts, as we talked about at the last meeting, they are popular, very popular, and along with that popularity comes a little side problem of trash. It's water bottles, it's ice pops, it's clothing, flyers, paper, snack bags, everything. And so we have a trash barrel there. We have added a second. With that, I don't want to make it all trash barrels there, because it doesn't matter how many you put out. If they're not putting trash in the trash barrel that's very accessible now, they're not going to put it in other spots. We've put things out on social media, hoping for, some cooperation. I did talk with a town meeting member who, was looking for a solution as well. We might try a recycling bin. We don't have a lot of recycling bins in our parks because people just throw trash in them, dog waste, and that becomes contaminated, cross-contaminated, and we can't recycle it. So, we've almost eliminated them from our parks. We will put them out for special events still. We put out some recycling bins, but, if they're cross-contaminated, it's not recycling anymore. So if it continues, we may have to look at shutting down the courts, but we do have a second barrel out there. I have checked it every morning. Sometimes the staff gets there and cleans it before I see it. Other mornings, not so much, but we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully it will correct itself as we get into the summer a little bit more. Along with that, we also had someone had inquired about the height of the rims, and we did check them. They were a little bit high by 2 inches, a couple of them, so the contractor did come back and lower the rims, the 2 inches, and some of the ties holding the mesh to the frame, to the fence frame, had been coming off. They came back and retied everything and added some extra ties as well, and we haven't had the problem with the fence going out. And our original thought was that, it was under one of the baskets along Church Lane, that end of the court, that maybe as players were, completing a layup or something or running, they'd be using the fence to stop themselves, possibly. But with the extra ties, we haven't had any issues with that since.
Anyone questions?
Are
on
you
that?
finished with the basketball courts, Brendan?
I'm done with the
I
basketball
didn't mean to
courts.
interrupt.
That's
you, I'm
okay.
sorry. A couple of comments on the basketball courts themselves. Maybe we should post some signs about, fines for littering in that particular area. Maybe we should ask the police department if they can drive by there more frequently, or camp out for a little bit in the parking lot. I mean, I would never support closing down the courts, but I agree that it's a problem that we need to think about. So those would be my suggestions. Put signs up that talk about fines, maybe have more barrels. I drive by there all the time. I live down the bottom of the hill, and the usage is incredible.
Incredible.
It's absolutely
It's
incredible.
it's doubled, for sure.
And you see a lot of younger kids there, and they're playing because the baskets, I didn't realize some of them were 2 inches too high, but they're playing because the baskets aren't bent, the courts are beautiful, and it can improve their game. The other courts that we had didn't really, I don't think, help improve the games of avid basketball players. So just a couple thoughts. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone have anything? No? Okay, Brian, thank you.
Okay.
Continue.
They're so nice, we were drawing groups from Delaware to play. There was a group that was visiting the area, and they came in, were playing volleyball out on the field and then basketball. And we said, oh, where are you, we saw some vans. He said, where are you from? Thinking, Worcester maybe, somewhere, on the outskirts of Boston or, middle of nowhere. Oh, Delaware. So they were doing a church camp, I think, up in Billerica, and they were trying out the park, so. Anyways, the next item I have is also related to Simons Park. We have modular classrooms brought in each year for our Club Simons program, and they were delivered on Tuesday. The classroom is really utilized as a clubhouse for our modified Club Simons program, and is a great resource for our therapeutic rec program that is up there. We also have a second smaller modular classroom that's brought in, and that is used by the Burlington Public Schools. So they utilize the space for educational services for students. So they can still participate in our Club Simons program, and they're just pulled out of the activity for a short period of time to receive their services that they get throughout the year, and then they're right back into the programs. So Emma has worked with the schools to develop that program last year, a couple of years ago, but last year it really took off. This year, the schools want to do that again. It was beneficial for them, and as well as the participants, which is the most important thing. They can still participate in a summer program and get some of the services they receive throughout the year. So I want to thank Emma for her work setting that up. I know Kelly had a hand in it as well. The thought process went through, but so moving off of Simons, just our athletic fields, or the athletic fields, we have completed all of our spring fertilization on the town fields, and we're working to finish up Mary Cummings and some of the school fields. As we near the end of June, we'll be doing one more treatment. It'll be a summer treatment that'll last 3 months, 2 months to 3 months, and that includes some fertilization, grub control, as well as seeding. The wading pool, I probably should have.
One question on the fields, if I may,
sure,
Mr.
go ahead,
Chairman? Yeah, just, I was by TRW, and is that being played on anymore? It looked like the baseball field there looked like it was well overgrown.
Yeah, it's not, there's nothing permitted there, but we are going to get into renovating the fields one more time. As, the seasons are over, we'll go through and renovate all the fields. Grass starts to grow in some of the fields, and that one will be renovated as well.
Yeah, that one looked like, I've looked at the other fields as well. If you go over, like, say, an equivalent one at Mitre, people were playing on it. That one looked like it hadn't even been played on in quite a while, so.
Yeah, Little League didn't use it this year
Okay.
at all.
Yeah.
So we obviously focus our attention on the other ones, but that didn't even, I don't believe that got renovated at the beginning of the year, so it really
Okay.
fell off. So they have, we have some work to do on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Continue, Brandon.
The wading pool at Simons Park opened on Saturday. Our maintenance staff had completed the preseason prep of the pool and was on hand for the Board of Health inspection. Program Coordinator Jesse Hampson has gone through orientation with the pool staff last week, and it's been a cool opening, to say the least, but this weekend looks like it's going to get muggy and sticky, and we've had lots of people coming into the office for their wading pool pass. So if you do need a wading pool pass, you need to be a Burlington resident, so bring proof of residency. If you just moved here and you haven't switched your license yet, a utility bill, something like that, will act as your proof of residency. So, anything else? All right. Moving into some maintenance items, we had all of our large area mowers, our tractors, the bucket truck were all inspected by the state this week, and we're happy to say they all passed. Sticking with with maintenance items, we've had some volunteer groups in prior to graduation. We had a group from Keurig here to work on the varsity field area, doing weeding, trash cleanup, and mulching. So I would like to thank them for coming out and volunteering for that. And then this past week, on Tuesday, we had 2 different groups from Stantec. One worked up at the Human Service Building in the morning, cleaning up the beds in the front, getting them weeded out so we can get some mulch in there. And then another large group worked up at Simon's Park in the afternoon. They split off in the groups, going through scouring the park for trash and debris, as well as all of the planting beds that are on, in the park. So down in the corner of Church Lane, the main sign coming in off of Bedford, another big planting bed around on the front hill that faces Cambridge Street, behind center field, and then around the Visco building. So we got that cleaned up in anticipation of the start of our summer programs in 2 weeks.
Excellent. Any
And-
questions on that? Continue.
And then the last item I have, Council on Aging exercise class or fitness class. Kelly and I recently met with representatives of the Monday, Wednesday fitness class that attended the last commission meeting. They were looking for some follow-up, some clarification, but also discuss some times that they may have identified in our brochure when we don't have a program listed. But that doesn't mean nothing's going on in the gym. It just means there's not a program listed. In the summer, we have our Summer Discovery Preschool program is out of our building, and they fill in slots in the gym, get the kids out of class upstairs running around, as well as there may be a renter that uses the gym, and it's not listed in our program brochure. So we did meet with them and answer their questions. And we kind of were able to, I think they have a better understanding of, that puzzle, right? That 1,000-piece puzzle, and we have space for 500 and trying to figure that out. We shared with them some potential other spaces and times that they could utilize. And they were flexible, I think, with times. So we believe we've identified a space for them to hold their class. It's up to the Council on Aging to get an instructor to fill that time if the current instructor is not able to make that time. They are on our agenda, but doesn't look like, I think we've answered their questions and they have a better understanding of everything, so. I think, Jeremy, did you have a question? Oh, I thought you.
Commissioner
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you were raising your hand.
Nelson has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did anything come out of the Grandview Farm space? We were talking about that at the last meeting.
We have identified that as the space, if it works for them.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and it's something that I've reached out to the town administrator about, looking at that going forward into the fall, winter, and spring as, at least having that spot in whether it's our program that moves over there or their program that moves over there, but having that dedicated time slot. Hopefully, something works out for them. They have a couple options, so.
Well,
So will this resolve the issue just for this season, or will this help resolve the issue going forward so we don't have to,
If we're able to reserve that time slot in that building, hopefully it will resolve it going forward. And again, it may be our class, but it'll probably be their class that moves over there. If we had an opening, in that time slot, they could do it in the gym. If we don't, because just as their instructor is available certain times, our instructors have certain availability, and, we need to program that space first for us, so.
Quick question. If we book the room, either us or Council on Aging, at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks out, they book that spot, they get bumped for sure, right? Or how
We
does that
wouldn't
work?
get bumped.
We wouldn't
we-
get bumped, would Council on Aging get
No.
bumped? Okay.
Because the
all right.
spot, are we talking about the Grandview?
Yes,
I believe the spot would be, whoever it's reserved for, it goes on the calendar for that period of time,
okay,
for whatever period of time we ask for.
okay. I
In
just don't-
midweek in the mornings, I don't think there's a lot in there. Other parts of the building can be used, while that is going on. But I think we can, it would work out.
Okay.
Haven't finalized the conversation
Yep.
going forward. That's something that Town administrator, myself, and the council on aging director will sit down and come to an agreement on.
Excellent. Thank you, Brendan. Any questions more for Brendan? Kelly, your report, please.
Thank you. So we are happy to report, we've transitioned fully to the Bamboo HR platform. With this summer season starting, we are utilizing the platform to onboard on both the maintenance and the program side. We're additionally using the software for clocking in and clocking out, so we've eliminated the paper payroll process for the program side as well. We haven't rolled that out for the maintenance side yet. But Beth has worked hand in hand with the town's HR department to make sure that our processes that we're putting in place are effective for them as well. So we've made some tweaks and worked cooperatively with them as far as how we're getting information and sending information over to them. So we would just like to thank Beth for all of her efforts there. She has really been working hard to streamline the process on both ends, right? So that our employees have an easier end-user experience, as well as our administrators and the administrators in the HR department for the town. So she's done an amazing job. So shout out to Beth.
Thanks.
Our program team held their annual directors camp for the summer's program directors, June 5th through 7th at Grandview in the conference center. Each evening focused on different facets of leadership, addressing topics such as de-escalating serious situations, working with parents, and safety of programs. On June 7th, we were joined by the Burlington Police Department. Captain Hannafin came over and chatted with our staff about how to keep our participants safe in all kinds of situations. And then he went and visited each of them at their program locations, because everybody's location is different and their plan is going to be different. So he visited with each of them, and they talked about a safety plan and what they need to do in an emergency situation. So they each have identified individual plans for their programs, which they'll implement starting in a couple weeks. So we'd like to thank the Burlington Police Department for that, and Captain Hannafin specifically. On Tuesday, June 13th, our maintenance team hosted Eileen Coleman, the Assistant Conservation Administrator, for a stormwater management and illicit draining training. I always say that wrong, sorry.
Say it 10 times fast, Kel.
I can't even say it once. Obviously, you know, clean, green, accessible parks and open spaces are what we strive for here in Burlington, and to do that, you know, learning more about stormwater management, as well as illicit draining, and who to call and what to do if any of our staff sees it out in the open spaces, is important to that effect. So we thank Eileen for coming out and chatting with our staff about that. And next week, our summer program orientation will begin on Monday, and it's a 4-day orientation, also held at Grandview Farm for all of our summer staff. We'll be holding this orientation once again conference style, and there's a number of topics covered every day, from information from Burlington Parks and Rec. The police will be coming back to chat with our staff as a whole. Burlington Youth and Family Services is going to come and talk about 51A reporting and how to look for signs of potential child abuse with our staff. We also have people from the Summer Camp Society coming in to talk about how to run programming, how to de-escalate behaviors, all of those kinds of topics will be covered. So we're excited about that. It's always fun to get everybody together in one space before summer starts. As far as therapeutic recreation is concerned, on Tuesday, May 23rd, Emma and I attended the Northeast Inclusion Summit in Lexington, and the summit itself showcased concrete strategies for supporting inclusion and provided opportunities to connect with like-minded people seeking to create a culture of inclusion. This was an interesting summit or conference style where we got to chat with people not only in recreation settings, but in school settings or church settings or other settings where they're looking at how they can be inclusive and just looking at things through a different perspective than we look at through things every day. So hearing how they might be able to modify programming and how we might be able to implement some of that back in our department was really insightful. We've had several special events over the last couple of weeks. The Great American Campout was held on June 10th into June 11th. Was saying that, you know, it did rain for about 20 minutes. We had some lightning strikes. The staff did a great job modifying and making sure all of our families were safe. And then the sun came out and there was rainbows and camping and a movie and everybody had a great time. So people really love camping at Simons Park. It's such a fun opportunity to, you know, to pitch a tent in a place where you might play a game or go visit the wading pool. So the families really enjoyed that. Shout out to Jeff DeSalvo, our assistant program coordinator. He was the chef of the evening and fed everyone in the park that night. We just were giving out food to anyone who was there, so that was great. And Jesse Himpson and Jeff also coordinated our regional track and field meet on Sunday, June 11th. We had teams from Lexington, Concord, Bedford, I think that's it this year, come and join us for a typical track meet. And it was very well attended. Kids were so excited. They got to compete in whatever events they wanted to. They did typical running events, so like the 100, the 400, the 50 meter, whatever, as well as a softball throw and a long jump. And they love to compete against each other and their teammates. It was fun. It was really fun to watch. So both the Great American Campout and the regional track meet was sponsored by Northeastern University, who is a premier partner for us this year, which is awesome. And Stride Fitness also was a sponsor for the track meet as well. Upcoming events. So as the summer rolls on, our special events start to pick up in frequency. Next Tuesday kicks off our summer concert series. On Tuesday evenings, we'll have family concerts, and on Wednesday evenings, we'll have children's shows. Each start at 6:30. Tuesday goes until 8. Wednesdays goes until 7. In addition to the concert series, this summer we're partnering with the Girl Scouts of Burlington to host a Culture Fest event at Simons Park. The event will take place on Monday, July 17th from 6:30 to 8. It's in partnership with two young ladies, Gwen and Megna, who are working toward their Silver Award in Girl Scouts, which is almost akin to the Eagle Project for Boy Scouts. And I kind of went into what the Silver Award is. So they have to work in teams, and they work at least 50 hours on a project. It must educate the community on an issue that is of importance. It must advocate for a specific cause or group, and it must be sustainable. So it must be able to be continued after they are gone. So we're excited for that partnership, and we look forward to the Culture Fest. They went and presented in front of the selectmen because initially it was going to be on the Common, but they didn't quite get the response that they wanted. So we downsized it a little and moved it to Simons Park, which I think is going to be a great spot for it. And they've gotten a decent response for that space instead. So it should be a fun night. And that's all I have.
Excellent, Kelly. Thank you so much. Any questions for Kelly?
A couple questions, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Nelson?
Kelly, we were talking a couple of meetings ago about staffing and difficulties filling positions. How are we doing with the staff positions? Are we fully staffed?
I believe that we are almost there. I think we have 4 inclusion spots left, which is a hard position to fill. Looking for a certain kind of person who is comfortable with people with disabilities and interested in learning more. But every other position is full. So those are a little harder, and we're a little more particular about the staff member that we put in those positions for obvious reasons. But
That's good news.
We're good.
Yeah, that's good news. Just a couple of comments.
Yeah.
Kelly was mentioning the regional track meet that was hosted. I just wanted to point out that the Burlington High School boys track team won the Division IV state championship a couple of weekends ago.
That's awesome.
And one of their athletes, Elijah, forgive me, I forget his last name, competed in the nationals, and he won All-American status from the high school. He's a senior. And last Sunday, the girls' softball team won their first state championship.
That is
So,
true.
You sure did.
and they all grow up on the recreation fields, and they learn how to play the game through, local coaches and things of that nature. So it's just, it's a thrill to see how successful they're all doing, and I think a lot of it has to do with the opportunities that they have through the recreation department, so.
Awesome.
Especially
Good
the
news.
coaches. Coaches grew up in our program too, right?
That's true.
Matt Carr is one of our longtime instructors, so.
Very true.
Excellent.
That's all I
Great
have, Mr.
comment.
Chairman.
Great comment, Chairman Nelson. Anyone else? So, Kelly, thank you very much. On the chairman's report, I don't have anything, but I would like to, just a quick comment, as we get into our busy season, as I would say. People think the summer comes and, everyone goes on vacation and, but it's actually our most busiest time between maintenance, programming, rec in general. And I think you guys are doing a great job. And I think our maintenance staff is doing a great job. As Bill had said earlier, he goes around and looks at the parks. Today, I rode around and looked at all our parks. And I think the rain has helped, but I think our fields are in great shape. I think what we're doing is working, and I'd like to thank everyone for all their hard work. And I really appreciate what everyone's doing, and I wish you guys a very successful summer program. I know it's a lot of work, and I hope everything works out well. So I just wanted to make that comment to you guys, and let Bill know, his staff, that I appreciate the hard work. That's all. So that's me. Anyone have anything on subcommittees?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's not really a report, but I noticed at our last meeting in May, one of the subcommittees that I agreed to serve on was the Master Plan Committee, and I'm just wondering if Brendan can give us a little update on the award of that contract. Have we done that yet, Brendan?
No, we won't send it out until July.
July
It'll go
1?
out July 1st when the money is available. But I know we are working on the pickleball courts. Is that one we want to make sure we get it secured for September? Not that the master plan isn't, but we'll work on the master plan one as well.
Okay.
And get it out there.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair-
Carlson?
Yes, we met with the sculpture committee yesterday. So the couple things that they brought up, cameras, they're looking to install them in the park in order to just keep an eye on things in case there is any vandalism. They did mention that they're looking to see who would be able to administer the cameras, or at least have, a place for the cameras for viewing. They did mention that this might come across on the recreation department for us to house that video, so they're looking into that. Obviously, with the space being in flux, we're waiting to hear what happens with cameras. There's also a talk about maybe using some of the cameras that are going to be installed on the common and having a couple angled towards the sculpture park to see if maybe that'll help as well. So there's an ongoing conversation with town administrators and the sculpture park committee. The next item that they just covered that I want to highlight is the return of the Follow Your Heart sculpture, which will be coming back sometime in July. It's been fixed. They are looking to have an event around the return of this sculpture around mid-July. They're looking at July 22nd. Obviously, we need to look at what other events are taking place from the rec department. But they are planning on doing some type of large-scale event for that in order to celebrate its return to the town.
Excellent. We have anything booked on that date?
I think it's a Saturday.
I usually do Saturdays.
Yeah, it's a Saturday, Kelly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause we,
I'm not sure, nothing on the common.
yeah. The cameras, the common's not our responsibility, so that would be something that if they put cameras on there, that would go to the
Select board.
select board.
Yep. So we're
So,
looking.
okay, that'll be it. Thank you, Commissioner Carlson. Commissioner Gaffney?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I was going to mention was something on the Mary Cummings Park lights that I brought up at Planning Board the other night, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Thank you,
No
Mr. Chairman.
business. Commissioner Brooks, you have anything? I know it's tough.
No, I just needed to hear a little bit.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we go to new business. Brandon?
Okay, thank you. We talked about senior fitness classes. They had asked to be on the agenda, but I think we were able to answer their questions and concerns. The other item is, that we have, the first item is the Community Theater Company of Burlington. As I mentioned previously, their license agreement expired during COVID, and they're back operating. We wanted to make sure that we re-up the agreement. Town council has reviewed it, and there was a minor update, and it was, I highlighted on everyone's copy that I sent out, and it just had to do with if they're doing any work in the building that they have to comply with procurement requirements, and that did get added in there. So tonight, I have sent out, so everyone had a chance to review it, the updated license agreement, and I am requesting the Recreation Commission vote to approve the use of the building therein known as the Park Playhouse at Overlook Park, located at 1 Edgemere Avenue, Burlington, which is under the care, custody, and management and control of the Recreation Commission for a term of 2 years, effective, it would be July 1st, 2023. That's when the contract would renew, and it would be for a period of 2 years. If we would like, if everything's going well and we'd like to renew that, 6 months prior to the 2-year, or the end of this agreement, we can re-up for another year. So it would be a total of 3 years, and it's all at the fee of $1. So they're really good tenants. You know, they have security on the building, they have, you know, sprinkler systems. We have, you know, the town has, but they have a security system. We have access to the building. A couple times a year, I meet with the Burlington Players, or I think they're officially the Community Theater Group of Burlington director, and we walk through and make sure that rooms are, you know, not overcrowded with things. There's access to the electric panels, to the fire panels, things like that. So they've really been good tenants, and I would recommend that we re-up for the agreement for 2 years.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Recreation Commission approve the license agreement between the town of Burlington and the Community Theater Company of Burlington, Inc.
So moved. Second? Commissioner Gaffney?
Yes.
So Commissioner Nelson moved, and then Commissioner Gaffney second. Discussion, anyone? I would just say that since I've been on the board, they've been a great tenant for us. We've never had issues. They've actually done upgrades to the theater, try to make it better, so, and they do great work, so I'm in favor. So I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Nelson?
Aye?
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaffney?
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Norden? Aye. 500, lease agreement is approved. Thank you.
I'm just going to pass this down. If everyone that is here can sign it under the date, then get it back to me along with the minutes. Then I will pass that on to the Community Theater Group of Burlington, and then it'll come back to us for the town administration to sign off on it.
And then our next new business would be the public participation. Brandon?
Yes, as I shared with you previously, town council had issued a recommendation regarding public comment. at citizens' time at a public meeting. We discussed it at a past meeting, and a document went around to add any comments to it, and I think everyone has that document now, so I would just suggest that there is a discussion on it, and we can make the additions or changes to that document. This would be the first official reading, and then we could have a second reading with all of the edits in there, and then it could become our policy for participation at Recreation Commission meetings.
So, first off, Commissioner Carlson, thank you for doing that, setting it all up for us. Do we have any, do we have to, do we read the whole, how does this work? I don't know how this all works.
I don't think you need to, Dick.
We just discuss the changes?
Yeah.
And if we need any more changes? So we have any discussions on what we've come up with?
I have a couple of comments, Dave, if I may.
Sure.
On paragraph 1 at the very end, it indicates, we added up to 3 minutes. I think we all thought that was a good idea. The chair will have discretion to allow individuals to speak. It says allotted up to 3 minutes, period. Then it says additional time may be allotted at the discretion of the chair, period, which I think is a good provision, depending upon the complexity of the issue. Then it says an equal amount of time in which to do so. I think that's an incomplete sentence. I'm not quite sure. Does yours say that, Dave?
Yeah.
I don't know what the intent was of that. I think we should probably delete it, and I don't think we need it.
I think it has been deleted. It's hard to tell in these markups.
See what
Oh.
it says,
Oh,
an
see?
equal amount of time.
Yeah, mine looks like it's crossed out, so.
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe I put to the wrong one. I had a bunch
It's
of
written
them.
twice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard to.
Yep, I
figure
get
that
you.
out.
Okay.
I get you.
But
So
I
that
think-
will be good point out, but I'm not, yeah,
So
Okay.
it's written
it
twice.
stopped right here, and then all of this crossed out.
Oh, it's already on yours, okay. You've got a green one, he's got a red one.
Not good pickup.
Okay, we're gonna take that out, okay. That was the only comment that I had on this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on the first reading?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would just say that there are some formatting issues and other typos
Yeah.
that just, I think we tried to correct them as much as we possibly could, but we probably just need to take a once-over on some of them.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Maybe
fine.
Brendan,
It's not the final, we'll get it off together.
one of our
for
staff
next-
members can just do a proof on it and correct some of the
Sure.
typos.
Yeah, I think, Lindsay, you have the document, right? So if you make these corrections, send it back, we'll proofread it as well and make sure.
Yeah, some of them are formatted.
Make sure that-
Track changes. and
Yes.
then-
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep, accept all the changes, and then we can spell check it and grammar. I found out today we have a former English major on our staff. So
Beautiful.
Wow.
not going to say who that is, but it's not me.
Kelly?
It's not Kelly either.
Yes, sir.
So I was just surprised. That's all.
That's good, though.
Yeah,
I like that.
yes.
Well, whoever that may be, maybe they do a little,
Right, they might, so.
so do we, so we just go to the next meeting? We don't, do we,
Do you have to vote on these changes
No, I don't think so. I think
As
we make the
presented.
corrections and put it on our agenda for our
and
next
then read it
meeting.
And
at
then
our
we-
next meeting?
Yeah.
then we vote on it, and that will be the way. Okay, excellent. Okay.
Okay.
So that is that, and then next, what did I do on my agenda? Old business, Brendan? Let me go back to old business.
The only item that I, actually, two items, and the first one is the Mary Cummings lights. So Burlington Youth Soccer was gathering more information on the lights. I had talked to them and let them know that they wanted to go forward, needed a little more information on the lights, and then I can reach out to, the City of Boston or their representative, which would, who is maintaining the park and probably has a better connection to someone in the city than we currently have, and can get a quicker answer, which would be the trustees of reservations. So once they get me that information, I know they had a meeting scheduled last week, and they brought up the lights and that they needed to get more information on them and get it to me. So as soon as they get that, hopefully before our next meeting, because the fall will be here before
Right.
you know it.
Yeah, okay.
Quick question, Mr.
Chairman?
Chairman?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I brought that up at the planning board just as an overall thought to see if I could get some feedback. And of course, the general consensus was concerning noise of the generators and it being a gas. So what I did is I took a little more look at it, and it turns out that you can get a solar one. And it actually costs a little bit less, but it's kind of the same footprint, and it would have no impact on the environment. So if that, you can maybe feed that back to the BYSA, I'd be more in favor of that if the city of Boston is allowing it to do a solar approach versus a gas generator one.
I did bring that up, so I think they are going to
Okay,
look
great.
into that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you,
I've
Mr.
never
Chairman.
seen that. That must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. They, I mean, they had the whole list of the gas ones, and all of a sudden, at the bottom, they had a solar one. And I go, oh, it's a couple $100 cheaper a month. So that's great that they're considering that, so it's appreciated.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. You've got the Mary Cummings Park there with all the nature around it, and you got the neighbors around the corner, so it kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Good idea.
If it's allowed.
Any other questions on?
I have a quick question for Brendan. Brendan, have you had an opportunity to, at this point, to meet with any of the trustees of the reservations? And if so, how do you find them?
So I do a lot of email. They've had a changeover since they first took over in their leadership, but there's one, probably a middle manager person that's very responsive. Within, a day or two when I email, they respond. So, sometimes we get questions about groups that want to use, the area that we have control of, but also move into, utilize the trails as well. So I'll just bounce it off of them and say, hey, this is, we got this request. I just want to make sure, if you have any concerns, we get them answered now. When the Northern Middlesex Mosquito Patrol or whatever comes, they sometimes land a helicopter there. We'll reach out to them, but they're very, very quick to respond and easy to work with.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
So,
Anything else on old business, Brendan?
the only other thing we talked about at the last meeting when we talked about metal detecting, and I didn't add it to the agenda, but I gave everyone a copy. So these rules and regulations for our park signs, they were approved prior to the pandemic. And the only addition, we had talked at the last meeting about metal detecting. So number 8 on that is just a line about metal detecting. Metal detecting, prospecting, or digging is prohibited.
Okay.
So that will, hopefully eliminate the holes being dug. Now, if a little leaguer's standing in left field and is bored out of their mind and they're digging with their cleat, I don't think we'll look to find them, but,
Yeah,
that's a different type of digging, so.
yeah, 'cause I remember when we worked on this, there was no one using metal detectors at that time.
Right.
Pre-COVID, yeah.
And at the, also, number 5, a fine of $100 for littering, that was actually up for, it was a bylaw change at town meeting. It was back in, I think it was 2018, September town meeting, and then it had to go 6 months, it had to go to the Attorney General's office and be approved. So it is, I checked on it before. It used to be up to $200, but they simplified it to $100 for littering. And they had to make the change and wait for the state to approve it, the Attorney General's office, so. But everything is correct in there now.
Okay, so maybe we put a real big one on the basketball courts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we,
Highlight it.
yeah, I might do
See that
some,
board over there? Yeah, maybe that big. Maybe
some of
they-
those corrugated signs, like the election signs that are that corrugated plastic.
Yeah.
They're a little less expensive. We can, just put a litter reminder up on the courts, one on each court, and as an assist
Yeah.
to reminding people that once you finish your water bottle, it's great that you hydrated, but it needs to make it to a trash or recycling bin.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Commissioner Nelson?
I think because it's an amended rule or regulation, I think we should take a vote on it tonight.
Absolutely.
So,
So
if
we'll
I
take a-
may, I'd like to make a motion that the commission approve the amended rules and regulations, which add item number 8, metal detecting, prospecting or digging is prohibited.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Nelson, second by Commissioner Carlson. Roll call vote. Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaffney?
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton? Aye. 500, the motion is approved. And we got new rules and regulations to be posted. Does that come out of our budget? Just we make the signs,
Oh, yes.
put them everywhere?
Yes, we'll be paying for those.
Okay.
And we'll have to get a finalized number. You know, the staff will work on placement and where, you know, how many at each park, and take down all the old and put up the new.
Okay. Thank you. Any need for an executive session?
We do not.
And we need to come up with that time for our next meeting.
Got a couple of other items, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Oh, sure,
real
go ahead.
quick. One of them, you know, what's a meeting without more pickleball discussion? Just to confirm that when the town has the lessons up there, they're only taking up 3 courts, and there's one free for public, or what was the policy on that?
I don't know if they were taking up all 4. Does it depend on the number of people?
I think during our lesson time, they take all 4.
Okay.
During Club 50 time, they only take 3 and leave 1 for the public.
Okay, thank you for the
Um,
clarification. Yeah, somebody was asking me on that one.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I can actually vouch that they take 3 courts. I just had a lesson
Ah,
yesterday.
there you go, so they leave one open.
There you
Okay,
go.
great.
But I think we allow them to take up to 4 for
For
our
the lessons, if there's
lessons,
enough people, yeah.
period. And then the Club 50 is separate.
Okay, and then a town meeting member asked me about the res, and we don't have jurisdiction over the res, right?
We do not.
Okay. It was just talked about how people leaving their what would you call it, the dog waste bags around there. So that would be conservation, perhaps?
So Conservation has property around the reservoir, but the DPW has jurisdiction over the reservoir.
Okay, thank you.
So there is some conservation property, yes.
Okay.
So they get half credit for picking up after their dog, and they lose half credit for
Right.
leaving it. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to come back to it, and
They were asking if the waste stations, you know, as you normally see at other parks, you know, for dog waste, to put around the res at different spots. So I'll just follow up with
Brian White is the DPW director, took over for John Sanchez.
Okay.
There is a waste can in the parking lot above the water treatment, and then I always forget the name of the road, but at the back end of the reservoir. So really, the halfway
two,
points, there are places that they can deposit the dog
Yeah,
waste.
but they
I know it's
typically
not
don't.
convenient.
Yeah, so maybe there's a couple of, as you just pop around, and it would be maybe nice wooden ones like you see in other parks with a little bit of basket, so I'll recommend. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any more questions for any of Brandon and Kelly? All right, thank you, excellent. So, agenda for our next meeting, what do you, I have, I know the last 2 weeks in July I'm on vacation, so,
The last 2, Dave?
yeah,
How about the week of the 17th?
that's perfect. Does that work for everyone?
July
I'm
7th.
wide
July
open, we can do it
17th.
any day.
Commissioner
Convenient.
Brooks, does that work for you? The 17th, or the
I'm-
week?
The week of the 7th, I'm not here the 17th.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? I didn't hear.
Those days work for me.
Okay. Let's see, You're not here the 17th, Brendan?
No, I am not.
19th?
Anything that week work? No,
The
you're on
night-
vacation?
If the 19th works, that's fine. I'm just out on the 17th.
Okay. I'm good. Actually, I'm on vacation that week. I'm leaving on the 15th and come back on the 29th.
Okay.
The 10th, does that work for people?
The 10th, I know it's in a couple weeks, but I mean, we still
Either
got.
that or the 31st. Are you back on the 31st?
Yep.
That work for you guys?
I think so.
Yep.
31st, we'll tentatively put out the 31st.
It's the week leading into Celebrate Burlington, you're good?
And
Okay.
if we have anything that's, needs to be voted on or some issue, you can get in touch with me and we'll reach out to
Okay.
these guys, but.
Jeremy, does the 31st work for you?
I'm out of town the 31st.
All right, now, back to the 10th, I guess. Go on.
Want to do the 10th?
That's okay
10th
with me.
work.
10th work for me.
All right, let's do the 10th.
All right,
We'll
July
get
10th.
it out. July 10th.
And then our agenda will have the public participation second reading.
Yep.
Yep.
Do we have any old business that we would, no, we don't have anything, right? Pretty much. You guys get busy with all the stuff going on, but.
Yes. Is it all right if we have a week before for the reports? Is it all right if we give them on the 5th? The third we're open, the 4th we're closed. And actually Kelly and I are the only ones in on the 3rd. Everyone else will be out,
Right.
so we'll be covering
Okay.
the office. So if you'd like to stop by, we're going to clean my office. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think if you gave them to us on the 3rd, we wouldn't read them anyway.
I would guess that, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
Okay, so we'll get them out to you on the 5th. And then I will try to do the agenda, obviously, before that, but the reports will come.
Okay. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So, yep, second.
Moving second. Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson.
Aye.
Commissioner Gaffney.
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton. Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful.